Hi guys, welcome back to Irish Footy Vlogs. Welcome back to another review show. We're going to start off. We're just after seeing actually Finn Harps and Derry, and we're going to start there in the Northwest Derby. Finn Harps 1, Derry City 2. I see JP smiling like a Cheshire cat. But yeah, I mean, Jones gave Finn Harps the lead after 31 minutes. In the first half, I have to say that was lacked intensity, but I do think the heat had a lot to do with that. It's now 20 past 8 and it's still very, very warm, to be fair. In the second half, Graydon scored after 80 minutes, first goal for the club. He came on sub, and Akintunde in the injury time gave Derry all 3 points. And I suppose I mentioned the first half, but there, the second half, it was all Derry, to be honest with you. In my opinion, I think Finn Harps sat back far too early in the game. Derry kept piling on the pressure, and eventually they did equalise through Graydon. He should have scored earlier, actually, but he did score this time. And they chances. They just played with good intensity, actually, in the second half. I think the heat would have come down just a little bit, which might have helped. But as I said, from my point of view, I do think as well that Finn Harps elected to sit back very, very early in that half. And it's always a dangerous thing to do. JP, from a Derry point of view, I suppose, how did you see it overall? It's a good 3 points for Derry, regardless of anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like it's never easy. It's never been easy for Derry against Finn Harps since Ollie Horgan has taken over, and like his teams have always like really put it up. The Derry maybe bar one or two games, but it's really been difficult, and they made it really difficult for us tonight. Like they done nothing in the first half, and they got a corner and they scored from it, and it was a really good corner, to be honest. Great goal, great header as well from Jones, and you have to give them credit. Like, and then they came out in the second half, and you're thinking, right, they're going to come out, because Derry had made 2 subs. They'd put Diallo on and Brandon Kavanagh, and you're thinking, right, they're going to try and maybe get about Diallo, see what he's about, maybe put him under a bit of pressure. But from the kickoff, they just seemed they just sit back and hold what they had, and didn't really like, right, we'll give 10 minutes and try and put them under a bit more pressure, maybe get another chance or whatever. They just sat back and invited Derry on from the very first whistle, second half. They started time wasting and far too early as well. Like it's and you have to give credit to Derry, because they did create a lot more in the second half than what they did in the first half. There was a lot more clear cut, and you just felt that the Derry were going to get one chance and get an equaliser, and they did through Ryan Graydon. A great ball by Cameron Dummigan, and I think Ethan Boyle just before that had got a yellow card for something similar, a ball over the top, and he brought his man down. And if he's not on a yellow card, he probably takes a chance and stops Graydon. And then it's sort of like McGinley's in 2 minds. Does he keep going? Does he? And then it just seemed to bobble in the back of it. From I thought it was dribbling wide, but credit to Derry, they didn't settle for the point. They went. Akintunde threw him on, wins a free kick, dangerous area, and then he gets himself around the back post and finds the back of net. And I got asked the question last week, what do I think of Akintunde? And I like Akintunde because he doesn't get a lot of minutes, but when he does get minutes, he really makes a contribution. Like he'll put himself about, he'll create chances for others. And every time he seems to score, it seems to be an important goal. It doesn't seem to be just maybe a consolation. It always seems to be an equaliser or a match winner. And fair play to him, he just keeps going. And it's another late winner from him. I think he done it in Dalymount Park as well earlier in the season. I can't remember off the top of my head where else, but he's good. It's a good 3 points. They needed it.
How much credit do you give to Rory Higgins for the subs he made in the game as well? I think obviously the subs made a difference, and Smith and McGonigal, it wasn't working, was it, JP?
No, it wasn't. Like it wasn't sticking. It wasn't. Maybe they were maybe making the same runs. They were up against the back 3, so there was always a spare man. So it was hard for Eilert, and they really get into the game. But you have to give full credit to Rory. Seeing the team in the first half, it wasn't working. He's put Diallo on, he's put Kavanagh on, he's switched the system as well. And he's just really going for it from the very first whistle. And Derry started, it got Patchen higher up the pitch, got McElhinney higher up the pitch, and Dummigan was getting down that wing we know he can do. And it'll be interesting because the guys in commentary said it too about Diallo. It'll be interesting to see how he plays against a team that will have similar type of possession rather than Derry dominating the ball. But you can see that he was never afraid to show for it. He was always looking to get on the ball. He was always looking. They played a forward pass, and I think from what I've seen tonight, I'm going to really look forward to watching them. But it'll be, as we say, it'll be interesting to see as the season goes on, and whenever we're coming up against teams that are going to be putting us under a wee bit of pressure, what he can do. But look, it was a really good 45 minutes for him, and you have to give full credit to Higgins because he noticed at half time it wasn't working and he just changed it up. He could have waited. He says, right, I'll give you 10 minutes, 15 minutes. He didn't do that. He just went in at half time, changed it up, and we got the benefits. We got the benefits of it.
Yeah, Luke, obviously it was a good response to the defeat in Europe during the week. And look, we expected them to go out, let's be honest about it. They gave it a good go in that game for maybe 15 minutes. They did have chances, including Akintunde actually in that game as well. But obviously they went out. But this is a good response and a response that they needed. They're 8 points behind Shamrock Rovers now. So maybe they'll be taking the title run again.
Look, it's a good win for them, and you know, I only seen the second half of this game. I was away all day, but from the second half, I did see it was all Derry. Like, I think Finn Harps will be very disappointed with the way they played. To be quite honest, it's just, you know, you're 1-0 up. Like, obviously, look, they're happy enough with the 1-0. They were happy enough, you know, up until the 80th minute. They're winning the game. Like, you know what I mean? So, like, they were happy, but they really, really could have done a lot better. You know, even going forward and that, and they'll be disappointed. It sort of reminds me of when they played Drogheda, and we're 1-0 up most of the game, and then, you know, 3 goals from Drogheda sort of kills them. Like, and you know, you're never really out of it. You know, and they are quite leaky at the back, as we've probably seen this season. So. I think Derry will be pleased because they just stay patient, and I think Higgins as well deserves a lot of credit, as he's mentioned. Like, it takes a lot of balls really to, you know, bring on these players, make a double substitution at half time, and when things aren't working, and maybe in another night it might not have worked out, but tonight it did, and he'll take the full credit for that. So fair play to Higgins and that, and you know, he's gonna be very pleased with what he's seeing from his team tonight, because regardless, it's always a tough place to go to. And you know, it's a derby as well, so for him it's you know, it's another win for them in the derby. And you know, look, it's a great 3 points, because again, look, obviously they're still a good bit off the top, but it's going to give them confidence, you know, that they're, even when they're down, you know what I mean, that they don't give up. And I think that's very important for them, and especially that sort of reaction after going out in the Conference League against Riga, which they'll obviously be disappointed about, but let's not take anything away from Riga, who are a very good team. But look, great 3 points for Derry, and you know, I'm sure their fans are very happy tonight.
From Finn Harps' point of view as well, they've been saying for most of the season seemingly that they're 3 points ahead of UCD. We'll get into UCD in a minute, but it's a bad night for Finn Harps, because obviously UCD winning. So first of all, from Finn Harps' point of view, you got to be worried now, though. You have to be, don't they?
Oh, like, of course they do, because
they're right down there. Like,
no, they are. They're in there as well, and it's, you know, UCD winning tonight away to Sligo is a great result. I know we're going to talk about that in a minute, but that's the sort of result for them that UCD will gain confidence from that. And Finn Harps, who are 1-0 up in the 80th minute, lose the game 2-1 in the last kick of the game, and that's I think that's going to really, really hurt them. And you know what I mean, it's going to really, and they'll go into the dressing room now this evening, and they'll see UCD have won 2-0 against Sligo Rovers, and that's not gonna help them to see. And look, they'll have to pick themselves up and go again. You know, but it's not gonna do them the world of good at the minute with the way the results have went tonight. You know.
Yeah, we'll get on to that now. Finish Sligo Rovers now, UCD 2 tonight. Obviously, none of us seen this, but Higgins after 23 and Keane after 68. From UCD's point of view, first of all, before we get into Sligo, a bit on Europe as well. It's a fantastic result, and to go to Sligo and win 2. Earlier on in the season, they were 1 down to Sligo, and they went 2-1 up very late in the game, and they let it slip actually, with Sligo scoring a late equaliser. But this time they made no mistake, and suddenly now they're level with Finn Harps, and you'd have to say again, all the pressure's on Finn Harps, and UCD can kind of be, I don't know if comfortable is the word, but kind of like, you know what I mean, say to themselves, well, we're expected to finish 10th here. we're level with you in the table now. So it'll be interesting to see how they do over the next few weeks. But it's a fantastic result for them to go to the showgrounds and win on scoreline wise anyway, a comfortable win. Luke.
Yeah. Sorry, go on ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah. No. Yeah, you're right. You're right. It's a great win for them because, look, there is pressure on them because, you know, they are where they are in the table. But at the same time, it's like nobody's really expecting them to, you know, shoot up the table and win so many games. You know what I mean? But that will do them the world of good. You know what I mean? Because they're obviously look pretty similar. Like they'll go into the dressing room this evening. Obviously be a bit different up in Ballybuffet for Finn Harps, but for them, you know, UCD will go home and they'll be saying to themselves, like, we're not out of this. We're not out of this. You know what I mean? Let's not give up because they do have talent. You know what I mean? They do have the players. They do have players that are capable of, you know, producing good moments. Like obviously, look, they lost Whelan and Kerrigan, but I see Kerrigan actually scored today. Yeah, Euro as well. I think Kerrigan actually scored today for Como in the Serie B. I think obviously they haven't started the league yet, but just a friendly, so fair play to him. But on the game itself, look, it's what they needed. You know what I mean? It's 3 points. It's their second win of the season, on the same amount of wins as Finn Harps. Now they're on the same amount of points as well. So, you know, it's going to give them confidence that, you know, they're not out of this league yet. So, you know, they've got a few tough games coming up, of course, but I'm sure they're looking forward to that now, especially like when you win a game, it sort of gives you confidence. So even at home this season, they've been very tough to play against, but to get 2 away wins, I don't think they've actually won at home this season. So I know they are difficult. I know, look, it's a pretty stupid thing to say, but I know like they're decent.
You know what the funny thing is? They have 6 points on the road and 6 points at home, but they've had 6 draws at home.
Yeah, like they're tough to beat. They're tough to beat.
Yeah. They don't get. I say it every week. It's very rare to get hammered. Like apart from that Derry result in general,
that's the only hiding they've gotten.
Yeah,
the only hiding they've gotten this season. Yeah.
Yeah, JP for Sligo. I mean, we can talk about their week really, but look, lucky they got through in the penalty shootout because this could have been an absolute disastrous week for them, and it wasn't great against Ballatown, for honest, JP. You know, playing against a Welsh part-time side, like the 39-year-old players in midfield, and it reminds me of the old part-time teams in the League of Ireland a little bit, who obviously are in pre-season, and they were dominated against them. They had to thank Ed McGinty. They obviously got to the lottery of penalties, they got through, but they had to seriously thank Ed McGinty for getting through that tie. So I suppose if you want to talk about that first, JP, very quickly, before you talk about the ramifications of the result against UCD.
Yeah, really poor performance from the other night, but the Sligo fans, the board, the players, they got over the line. They done it in the shootout. They got over the line. That's all they'll care about. They've doubled their bank balance in terms of European prize money. At the end of the day, that was the most important thing. But they'll be disappointed that they didn't put on a performance again in their fans and made it a wee bit easier for. Like they could have, if they had that game wrapped up, they could have taken players off in that game and rotated the squad a wee bit going in the second half or whatever, and for this UCD game rather than getting through on penalties, then having to make the change. I don't think they made a lot of changes today. I know McGinty wasn't there.
I think McGinty was the only one.
McNicholas was in net, so
I think Banks came in for Horgan and started, but Banks and Horgan, you can argue.
I think Shane Blaney went off injured as well.
He did after 34 minutes, but you had Morahan, Livac who played, Keena, Fitzgerald, Mata. They all played, Paddy Kirk, all those players, Panaker, like, you know what I mean? So I wonder if that did play into the result against UCD. Still, we were saying it during the week that if they could have handpicked the game after the Ballatown game, it would have been UCD at home. And it was a real opportunity for Sligo because like they're 4 points behind Pats and they still have a game in hand, but that could have put them right up behind Pats with a game in hand.
Yeah.
We look stupid now.
It was probably, you could say it was probably the result that was coming all season. Like they were 2-1 down against them earlier in the season, nicked the point. They drew with them in the UCD Bowl. Now they've UCD have beaten them, and they've beaten them with a clean sheet. And for Sligo, it'll be, if they get through Motherwell, it would be an unbelievable result if they do that.
It's the way they're playing as well. I think other, like, I fancy a League Ireland team to have a chance, believe it or not, against a Motherwell or whatever. But the fact that they're not playing well, I'd be very concerned.
The most important thing for them is giving themselves a chance to be in the shout for qualification next year.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to win league matches. Like today, the most important thing for Derry was to get the 3 points, to create that wee bit of a gap between themselves and fourth place, because we all know third place guarantees you. Fourth, and you have to rely on the cup. Sligo, realistically now, probably have to try and get themselves to fourth. And
for some reason, JP, even though they're close, it's kind of hard. It's hard to see them get fourth. I don't know what it is. You just feel like they're going to get results every now and again like this that will mess themselves up or something. Like, you know,
I totally agree. I think that the top four that's sitting at the minute is going to be the top four. It's whether somebody from outside that can win the FAI Cup and put the spanner in the works, because I don't think we've had a winner from outside the top four in about 10 years. And it's going to be really difficult, like, for Sligo to make Europe through the league campaign now. Like, this result would have kept them, but it would have kept them in it and with half a shout. Like, but they're 10 points behind Dundalk in third place. They're now 4 behind Sligo or St. Pat's, where they could have put themselves a point behind with a game in hand, with a chance to go above them, and then pressure's all on Pat's. But look, we don't know how they played today, but by all accounts, they probably didn't play well. Maybe the Sligo fans can tell us. But it's a really, like, winning on penalties has saved their week, because if they had lost on penalties the other night, lost this today, it would have been an absolute disaster of a week for Sligo and John Russell.
No, it would have been a catastrophe. We'll move on to heading the game. Park, we're finished Drogheda United 0, Bohemians 1. It's a great week for Bohs, actually. Burt scoring after 76. But before we get into the game, like, obviously with Sligo losing, Bohs are now 4 points behind Pats with a game in hand. And, you know, a lot of people say, how did that happen? But there you go. They're there. They're in the shake-up, no matter what people say. In this game, obviously Luke was there, so I'll go over to Luke in a second, because the highlights package didn't show an awful lot of him on us, because I heard from Drogheda and Bohs fans alike that this was pretty much end to end, particularly in the first half. I do think the goal from Burt, it's a good strike. I think the keeper can do better there, in my personal opinion. I think maybe comes off his line slightly, just a little. Maybe there's no need. I don't know. No. But I think he could do better. But Luke, I suppose you were at the game and you've seen the game. So there was a lot of chances for both sides in the game. And it was one of those where Howard only finished 1-0 by all accounts, wasn't it?
Yeah, and to be honest with you, I think it's one of the Droghed's best performances of the season. And look, I know it's probably a mad thing to say, considering we bet Shamrock Rovers at home and beaten Dundalk twice at home, but it's up there at one of the best performances we've had this season. Like, literally from the first minute, it was frantic. It's probably the most mental game I've seen in a long time. In Heading the Game Park, anyways, it was just end to end from the very start of the game until probably about just after half time. Like, it sort of died down, as you'd probably expect. There was no way it was going to be end to end for so long. Like, but to be honest, look, it's the performance is brilliant by Drogheda, and of course, Bohs were going to be happy as well, because they played well as well. It was a really good game of football. From the first minute, you're just seeing both teams going at it, and I think Promise had a good overhead kick. McCabe, it was a pretty easy enough save for McCabe to make. And then I think, what was it again? Promise then was slipped through one-on-one with the keeper, which they didn't show in the highlight show, which is madness to me, because it was one of the best chances of the game. John O'Sullivan slips in behind.
Probably a better chance to the overhead by the sounds of things.
Yeah, like honestly, it's mad.
I'll just talk about that for 2 seconds, actually. For some reason, the highlight shows, I've gone the games before and I've looked at the highlights package and I've gone, why are you showing a shot from 30 yards and not showing that 1-on-1 that was missed? You know, that kind of way. There's a lot of that in it. I don't know what it is, but you were kind of saying they had that similar aspect in the highlights package for this game as well, like a little bit.
Yeah, they did, and it made it look like, even after Drogheda conceded, it made it look like Drogheda just stopped playing.
That was it, like
that was it. But Drogheda had 3 great chances, actually, two great chances after that. But anyways, on the first half, it was just frantic. Like, Promise was slipped through, he just misses, and then Darren Nugent, which was shown on the highlight show, wins the ball, does excellent, cuts the ball across. I think Markey should have dropped off a little bit. I think he ran in towards the keeper, but then it just fell to Rooney perfectly, and it looked like, to be honest, I would have put my house on him to score. and he just dragged it wide, which was unlucky, to be honest. It was very unlucky for him. It would have been great for him to get that goal, but I think that would have really, given Drogheda a boost, because even after that, then Dean Williams could have had a penalty. I think they didn't show that, of course, but he could have had a penalty. He was barged over the box. I've seen penalties given, and then I think Markey was put in behind. They pushed him. I've seen them given, and then I think Bowes could have had a penalty. So it sort of nearly balanced itself out. But then what I'm trying to. Then obviously James Clark has a good chance. Keeper makes a good save. Evan Weir has probably the best chance of the game.
Which wasn't shown either, I believe.
Which wasn't shown. Yeah, again, 5 yards out. He hits it, and I think it's cleared off the line, but I don't know. It might be going wide. But it was a good chance. He probably should have scored it himself. He'd be kicking himself. But and Bowes even laid a few chances as well. Look, to be honest with you, if Promise could, had better finishing, he would be with Bowes. It's as simple as that. He's so good. He's frightening. Do you know what I mean? He's
just not a finisher, though. He's not a finisher.
No, anytime you got him 1-on-1, you were scared. Do you know what I mean? Because he's just so powerful and so strong and so fast.
Quick.
He's frightening. Do you know what I mean? Very, very good player. And he gets in just in front of McCabe, which hits the post. You've probably seen that on the highlights, and it just rolled across the line. I don't know how it didn't go in. Then
Evan Weir actually does well there, because if he goes towards the ball, it hits off and probably goes in. But you're thinking he doesn't know what's behind him, so if he leaves it, there's a chance a Bowes player gets in. So it's an interesting decision, but in the end, he does make the right decision there,
Yeah, absolutely. Look, he had a great game. Again, he has been all season, excellent. But to be honest with you, it's then the goal, after half time, it's a bit dead after that for a 10, 15 minutes, a bit stale. I think Drogheda are playing some good football still, still looking dangerous. Markey, go on.
I was just going to say, both managers must have been in each other's dressing room saying, "Look, lads, no chances in the first 10 wins."
Honestly, it was. I've never seen anything like it. I was just like, "What is going on here? This is mental." It was just end to end. It was a great game. If you were neutral,
I've seen that. To be honest, I've seen that before with Drogheda and Bowes. Something about Drogheda and Bowes tends to bring that out, particularly ahead in the game. I've seen it before.
It was a very open game. It was just a very open game. You know what I mean? It could have been at half time. It could have been 8-4. Do you know what I mean? That's how mad it was. And to either team, not even to Drogheda or Bowes, it couldn't have been any team. You know what I mean? You wouldn't have been complaining because there was just so many chances in the game. And it's disappointing that they didn't show the highlights, because it's a great game.
I know. Yeah.
But then obviously Bowes got their goal, and sort of comes from nothing, edge of the box. You know what I mean? It's disappointing, because it's not that it's against the run of play, but it was probably the goal that was gonna win the game. You know what I mean? It was just one of them. It was just that sort of goal that's gonna win the game. It's disappointing. But then after that, in fairness to Drogheda, like they have all season, didn't give up. Good, some good chances. They'd won where Chris Lyons, it just sort of fell in behind him, and if he was just that little bit sharper, he would have scored it. You know what I mean? If it was Dean Williams, it might have been a different story. You know what I mean? But if he was just that little bit sharper, you can see he hasn't really been playing the last few weeks, and that. So just a bit of match sharpness, and that, I think he would have finished it no problem. But and then Keith Cowan does well. He actually wins the ball, and he sort of dinks it over, and it just looks like that Chris Lyons headed in, but Bowes got it away. I don't know how they got it away. And then obviously I think it's literally the last kick of the game. Then Markey has a free kick, whips it in, and Andrew Quinn misses from about 4 yards out, just headed it wide, and you just knew then that was it. Do you know what I mean? It was just one of them nights for Drogheda. But to be fair to Bowes, they stayed in the game. They got a good win. It's two wins on the bounce for them now. And I think it's the first time they've done that this season. So
it is
brilliant for them. But again, look, I'm not too disappointed, because obviously I was fuming that we didn't win, that we didn't get anything from the game, because I think we did deserve something from the game. But with the performance drop in, you couldn't really have asked for any more. Maybe just being a bit more clinical in the box, but that's football.
Yeah, JP, so from Bowles' point of view, Luke said it there, 2 wins in a row for the first time this season, and away from home as well. And the way this game was, like a basketball match, from what I've heard, the highlights doesn't really do justice, I suppose. But Bowles would be delighted to pick up the 3 points in that type of game. Obviously, with losing the boy as well during the week, it's a big boost, and they are there. They're still there. And the 4 points behind Pats with a game in hand, they're still in the position there. And like Keith Long would be absolutely delighted to get this win on the road. And as we said before, heading to Game Park's not an easy place to go to. So fantastic win for them.
Like they're hanging in there, aren't they? They're keeping themselves on the tails of Sligo and Pats, and it's what they need to do. Like they've been up around the top 4 positions for the last three years or something like that. So they'll want to make a lit charge. They haven't been consistent at all this season, as you say. It's the first time they've won 2 games in a row all season. They've done it away from home. They'll be hoping now to maybe string a few ones together at home and maybe put themselves in with a shout. And like we know the FA Cup starting shortly, like so everybody will be looking to build a bit of momentum going into that there. And no doubt Bulls having lost the final last year, be looking to do go one better this year. And great result. Like as we know, Drogheda have beaten Dundalk twice at home. They've beaten Sligo Rovers, drawn with Derry. They're unbeaten at home against the top 3. So it wasn't an easy venue to go to. And Bulls have gone there. From what Lucas has described, it looked like an unbelievable match to be at. And unfortunately for Drogheda, they came out on the wrong end of it. But look, it's probably not a disastrous result for them on the terms of their season, but it'll be a disappointing result for them, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely. Final game, St. Patrick's Day 1, Dundalk 1 at Richmond Park. Owen Doyle after 15 and Daniel Kelly after 17. I was smiling because both goals, it was a good game, really intense game, but both goals were kind of fortunate. Yeah. Doyle nearly messes up his opportunity when on the switch. It was a brilliant flick by his other namesake, Mark Doyle, and he almost messed it up. I took a deflection and went in. Kelly's was a bit of a messy goal as well for Dundalk. We'll get onto that later as well. But Owen Doyle, to be fair to him, I think he had his best game for Pats. He held up the ball brilliantly in the game, which was great to see. So it's good to see him have his best game for Pats. He has scored 10 league goals this season, to be fair to him. Very intense game, really good game of football. Both teams had chances. Both teams had their spells. I think in the first half, Pats obviously went 1-up in this game. And I think they did well. I think they probably just about deserved it. There was a few balls into the box. Dundalk were causing some issues on Pats' left. McCarry was getting up that flank brilliantly and getting some good balls into the box. There was one opportunity where he felt Hooban could have scored, where he comes across and heads it and just goes wide. For a player of his quality, you nearly expect him to score. He wasn't able to sitter though. But there was a lot of intensity, a lot of good play in this game. And, Pats, I think, when they conceded in the second half, at that point, Pats were well in control of the match. I know it was only 1-0, and you're always thinking, they hit the bar, they hit the post, with a few other chances, but they're well in control. Didn't look like conceding at this point. But unfortunately, Adam O'Reilly, it's disappointing because Adam O'Reilly does brilliantly initially to get into the position to cut out the danger. But for some reason, he plays it back into the middle where he's off balance, and the Dock win it, and they obviously end up scoring from there, and Kelly ends up scoring. And it's disappointing because I know Adam as well was beating himself up basically at the final whistle, which is always a good thing in a way because, you know what I mean? I like to see that bit of passion. You don't like to see players beating themselves up too much, but you like to see a bit of passion.
He could have easily have just said he didn't. He could have easily just showed no emotion.
Exactly, but it was clear he was really annoyed, you know what I mean? But he actually had a really good game apart from that. But it was a bit disappointing from Pat's point of view because at that point, you didn't see them conceding. After that, though, to be fair, Dundalk could have won the game. I think they played their best football in the last 15 minutes. And Daniel Kelly himself, I'd say in the last minute, had a great chance of a header. Did you see that? And
yeah, he didn't even hit it, did he?
He has to score. Yeah, he has to score there. And Dundalk could have come away with all 3 points. From Pat's point of view, it's disappointing. Huh?
Dundalk don't come away with all 3 points.
No, I said they have to come away with all 3 points.
Oh, I think he said Dundalk did come away with 3 points.
Sorry.
I was like, no way. I was like, did I miss something?
Maybe I did say that, but what I meant was they could have came away with the 3 points. Yeah. But from Pat's point of view, it's a little disappointing in the fact that we've mentioned before, but they played Derry 3 times, the Dog 3 times. They haven't actually won any of the games. So that's a bit disappointing, and that's why they're kind of behind with a bit of a gap in 4th place. But the performance was decent for Pats again. And I think Dundalk upped it a little bit in general, to be honest, from the Drogheda game, which they had to, because, coming off the back of that defeat as well. But I thought it was a really good game of football overall. Stephen O'Donnell got sent off, which brought a loud cheer from the Pats supporters.
Sent off, did he? Was he sent off?
Him and Craig.
Yeah, him and Craig as well. But to be honest, he was very intense throughout the game, to say the least, Stephen O'Donnell. But But there you go. Look, it's a decent point for Dundalk.
Yeah.
It just keeps them where they are. You know that kind of way, JP.
I like it. When I saw Pats were in front, I was from a Derry point of view, I was delighted. And then I looked at the league table and saw that it put some Pats within a couple of points of Derry, and I thought, not so good. But when Dundalk equalised, that was probably the perfect result from a Derry point of view. Like so, like there's still a long way to go in the season, so it's not like the results this weekend has decided where they're going to finish. But Dundalk were probably disappointed not they go to St. Pat's and won the game, but they, considering that they were behind for a long time now, they'll take the point out of it and move on, because they've got Harps next weekend, and St. Pat's are in Europe, and Derry aren't playing either, so a chance for Dundalk. They get a few points on the board while the teams around them are sitting with no game.
Yeah, I mean, look, when you're picking up, points away to the likes of Pats, who are technically the closest challengers, they're more than a point, aren't they? They're more than a point you're picking up in many ways. Even though I said in the last 15 minutes, I thought they played really well, looked like nicking it. They went to Richmond earlier on the season and drew 0-0 in the game where Shepherd made some great saves in, and that was seen as a big point. Again, it's a point that kind of just keeps them that distance ahead of Pats. Like they're 6 points ahead with the game in hand.
Yeah, exactly. Look, I know they'll be happy enough with the result in the end and the way the game went, but I don't think they're going to be too pleased with the way they played. I think Pats were very, very. Look, Pats had a great performance, and they're going to be. Like I seen Tim saying at the end of the game that it's another one of these games that they should have won, and probably is, because you said how comfortable Pats were, and you could probably see it as well from just watching the highlights and watching the vlog as well. Like it's just. It looked pretty comfortable for Pats, and if anyone was going to score again, it was going to be Pats. And I think Tunde has a great chance. I think at 1-0 when he gets put in behind, you probably would have expected him to score, but I think Cherry actually saves it.
He does get a touch.
So look, it's probably a good save then. But Tunde, probably a striker of his caliber. You know what I mean? You probably expect to score, but again in the game, they're just going to be pleased that they got back into it. They got a point. And I don't think O'Donnell would be too happy with sending off either. But look, I've seen it back. I've seen the video of him, rushing out with his.
That's the second one he's got this.
But that's the second one in 2 weeks that he's come out of.
But he's done the exact same thing last week against Drogheda when he's came out and tripped up Deegan, who clashes his head off the gate, which is right beside the dugout, like. You just
can't do that. Even for your own safety, you can't do that. Let's be honest, because he's coming out there, and it's quite tight there, the line at Richmond Park, the dugout. I mean, if someone slips into him with their studs or something, it's just silly, isn't it? From his own point of view, there, like,
It is. Yeah, it is. No, it is. It's not. It's stupid. There's no need for it. And look, I know there's a lot of Dundalk fans and happy with it and that, but you don't do it. Like, there's no need for it. You know what I mean? And he was lucky enough. He didn't even get a yellow card against Drogheda for it as well. So he's lucky he didn't get a yellow card that game. So they're not going to be too worried about that. They'll just be more worried about the performance, especially after last week. It's probably not the reaction they wanted, but they got a point. It's a tough place to go to. Not many teams have gone there this season and gotten many points, of course, but it's a good point for them. So they'll be pleased enough with the point, but maybe not the performance. But they've Finn Harps now next week. I think that's a home as well, so they're going to be looking to get back on the horse with 3 points.
I think the difference a little bit with Pats and the Derry and the Dundalk teams at the moment is that Pats could be in some games in a little bit of control, and they have a little habit of shooting themselves in the foot a little bit. They make a few basic errors and things like that Derry and particularly Dundalk defensively don't really make, and that's the difference I see between Pats and those teams, to be honest. And you could see it again a little bit in that game, But
it's probably just that lack of experience as well. Like Adam O'Reilly is obviously, it's just a lack of experience. You know what I mean? Maybe if it was Chris Forrester with that experience, probably wouldn't have done that. You know what I mean? But look, he's young and he's learning. So look, it's everyone makes mistakes. So look, you can't really blame him too much. And as you've said many times, he's been one of Pat's best players this season. Consistent, one of their most consistent players as well, from what I've seen. He's everywhere when I watch him. So that's a credit to him. But look, it lacks of concentration. But look, he's learning, so you can't blame him too much,
Look, guys, we'll leave it there. Thanks for coming on, lads. Guys, back home, subscribe to the channel, hit your bell notification button. Let us know what you think of the comments of any of the talking points. Let us know, and we'll leave it there. Thanks very much, lads.
Cheers, lads.
Cheers. Thank you.
We're